In my last video, I broke the one rule everyone in lucid dreaming agrees on. I looked in a mirror, and in that mirror, standing in a doorway behind my reflection, there was a man. I've seen him in my dreams since I was 15. Different dreams, different years, same man. He never speaks, he never comes close, he just watches. For 15 years, I pretended that was normal, and after that night at the mirror, I couldn't pretend anymore. So I did something I'd never tried before. I went into a lucid dream to look for him, on purpose. It took me 3 nights to find him, and when I did, he spoke to me. After 15 years of silence, he finally spoke, and I would give anything to unhear it. Let me tell you about him first, because for a long time, I didn't even admit to myself that he existed. The first time I was 15, I dreamed I was at my cousin's birthday party, except the party was inside a supermarket, and everyone was eating cake out of shopping carts. Normal dream nonsense, but over by the freezer aisle, there was a man standing alone. Tall, older, maybe 60, a long gray coat that doesn't match any season. Not eating, not talking, just facing me from far away. I remember waking up and thinking, who invited that guy? And then I forgot about it, the way you forget dreams. 2 years later, he was at a gas station in another dream across the road, watching me pump gas that came out as sand. In college, I dreamed about my own graduation, and when they called my name and I looked out at the crowd, every seat was full of people clapping, and he was the only one standing. At the exit, not clapping, it kept happening, once or twice a year, sometimes more, and here's the detail that messes with me the most. When I wake up, I can never fully remember his face. I can describe the coat, the height, the way he stands with his arms straight down, but the face slips away within seconds, like water through fingers. And yet inside the dream, I always recognize him instantly. Some part of me knows that face better than my own. In 15 years, he never spoke a single word. He never crossed the distance until the mirror. The mirror was the first time he moved toward me. And that changed everything, because if he was getting closer, I wanted to know why. On my terms, not his. So I set up the experiment. There's a technique called dream incubation, and it's stupidly simple. Before sleep, you write down exactly what you want to dream about. You repeat it in your head as you fall asleep, and you keep it as the last thought in your mind. I wrote one sentence in my journal, "Tonight I find the man in the gray coat." And I'm not gonna lie to you, writing that sentence at midnight, alone in my apartment, felt like signing something, like a contract I hadn't fully read. One more thing about looking for a specific person inside your own head. A dream doesn't work like a search engine. You can't just type a name. You have to want it, carry the intention into sleep, and hope your subconscious cooperates. Usually it doesn't. Mine, as it turns out, was waiting for the invitation. So the first night, I got lucid fast. The dream put me in a shopping mall that was also somehow a train station with a departures board hanging over the food court. Completely normal as far as dreams go. What triggered my lucidity was a clock. I looked at it twice, and the second time, the numbers had rearranged themselves. Clocks and text almost never survive a second look in a dream. The moment I knew I was dreaming, I remembered the sentence from my journal, "Find the man in the gray coat." I didn't know how to search for someone in a dream, so I did the most caveman thing possible. I stood in the middle of the food court and said it out loud. "Gray coat, tall, older man, I'm looking for you." And the entire mall stopped. Every single dream character, the woman with the stroller, the teenagers by the escalator, the man mopping the same spot of floor over and over, all of them stopped moving at the exact same instant, turned their heads, and looked at me. Not angry, no scary faces, just attention, total synchronized attention, like an audience waiting for the next line. I've been doing this for years, and I had never seen the dream itself react to me like that. And then a kid near the fountain, maybe 8 years old, holding a red balloon, said in a completely calm voice, "He knows. He's not here tonight." The dream collapsed about 4 seconds later, and I woke up with my ears ringing. So that was the first night, no gray coat, but the dream knew who I was talking about. Everything in there knew. By the way, while I was preparing this video, I went down a rabbit hole of forums about recurring dream characters. If you have one, a person who keeps showing up in your dreams over the years, describe them in the comments. The coat, the face, anything. I need to know if anyone else's stranger looks like mine. The second night, I couldn't get lucid at all. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Your sleep runs too deep or too shallow, and the switch never flips. But I still dreamed, and in the dream, I was back at my old job in an office where the windows showed the ocean even though we were supposedly downtown, and I was trying to print a document that kept coming out as photographs of rooms from my childhood house. Regular dream chaos, and since I wasn't lucid, I just went along with it. Except at some point I looked through the glass wall of the meeting room, and across the office floor between the desks, he was standing there. Gray coat, arms down, facing me through the glass, and even without lucidity, even with my brain fully asleep at the wheel, I felt my stomach drop, because some part of me recognized him anyway. I started walking toward the meeting room door, and the closer I got, the longer the room stretched, the door sliding away from me like a hallway in a fever. I never reached it. I woke up reaching. That morning I wrote in my journal, he was there and the dream didn't let me through, which raised a question I didn't like. Who was the dream protecting, him or me? Then came the third night, and the third night was different from the very first second. Most dreams start in the middle of nonsense and you have to catch them. This one started with me standing on a long residential street at dusk, completely lucid from the first instant, no reality check needed. I simply arrived, aware, like stepping through a door. That has happened to me maybe twice in my life. The street was familiar, the way dream places are, a collage of every street I've ever lived on. Porch lights were turning on by themselves, one by one down the block, and it was silent. Dreams are never silent. There's always a background hum, voices with no source, the engine of the world running somewhere. This one was muted. No people, no cars, every house dark except the porch lights lining the street like runway lights, so follow them. What else do you do? At the end of the street there was a bus stop, one of those simple ones with a bench and a glass shelter, and he was sitting on the bench. Gray coat, hands on his knees, waiting, not for a bus. The man had stood at the edge of my dreams for 15 years, and here he was, sitting under the only working street light, like we had an appointment. I'd love to tell you I walked up confidently, but the truth is my legs took about a minute to remember how legs work. The whole way over, I kept waiting for the dream to stretch the street again, to protect whatever it was, protecting the night before. It didn't. This time I was allowed. I stopped maybe 2 meters from him, and up close for the first time in 15 years I could see his face clearly. This is the part that's hard to explain. It was a completely normal face, an old man's face, tired eyes, deep lines, a face like 1,000 grandfathers. Nothing monstrous about it, and somehow seeing it clearly was the most frightening part, because I knew, with that internal dream certainty, that I was being permitted to see it. I asked him the only question I had. 15 years of questions, and what came out of my mouth was just, "Who are you?" He looked at me for a long time, and then the man who had been silent in my head since I was 15 years old opened his mouth, and his voice was quiet and rough, like someone who hadn't used it in exactly that long, and he said, "You finally looked. I was starting to think you never would." I asked him what that meant. He stood up slowly, joints like an old man, completely human. He looked down the street at the porch lights, then back at me, and he said the sentence I haven't been able to stop thinking about since. "This was never your dream. You're a guest here, and guests shouldn't open every door." Then he smiled, and it was the smile from the mirror, the exact same one. And the moment I recognized it, every porch light on that street went out at once, like the world losing power. And I woke up sitting upright in my bed, heart slamming, with the street light from my actual window cutting across the room. It was 3:40 in the morning. I did not go back to sleep. Okay, deep breath. Let me do what I always do and give you both versions. The rational version, and it's a strong one. Recurring dream characters are a documented phenomenon. The leading explanation is that your brain doesn't invent a new stranger every time. It reuses assets like a game engine. Somewhere in my teenage years, my brain built an old man in a gray coat, filed him away, and has been loading the same file for 15 years because it's efficient. The silence, the distance, the watching, that's just what background characters do. In the sentence he said, that's my own subconscious talking to itself. I went in primed by the mirror, primed by fear, expecting a revelation, so my brain improvised a line worthy of the moment. Brains do this. Dreams feel profound because the critic in your head is asleep. I believe that explanation. About 80% of me believes it. Here's what the other 20% can't put down. The dream characters reacted on the first night before I ever found him, like a system acknowledging a request. The dream physically blocked me on the second night, and on the third night, I didn't find him. He was waiting for me. Every lucid dreamer knows the feeling of authoring a dream, of things appearing because you summoned them. This was the opposite feeling. The entire week was the opposite feeling. It felt less like I was searching for him and more like I was being walked night by night to a bench under a streetlight where a conversation had already been scheduled. So that's where things stand. He told me not to open every door, and I've been thinking about that sentence for 2 weeks now, and I keep arriving at the same conclusion. I'm gonna open the doors. Because here's the thing about being told not to do something inside your own mind. Either it really is just my subconscious, in which case there's nothing to fear, and the warning is theater, or it isn't, and if it isn't, I need to know what's behind the doors. There's an old question in lucid dreaming, maybe the oldest one. Everyone asks it, and almost nobody tests it. What happens if you die in a dream on purpose? That's the next video, and I have a feeling he'll be watching that one too. If you want to see how it ends, subscribe. Close your eyes, stay awake.